Hi everyone, welcome back to Hyperfixation Podfics. Today I will be continuing Luminous by Sokka's First Fangirl on AO3. This is chapter 20, titled Expression. Link did not want to go to this dinner. He had to. He knew he had to. Besides, it was just dinner. There was no reason to be so shaken up. It's just, they were going to stare at him again. They'd have questions, and Link didn't know how much to tell them. He wanted to reassure Mayor Reede and any guests. Oh, Hylia, what if he invited other people? That he knew what he was doing. That he had everything under control. He had a plan. He was following it. So far, things had gone pretty smoothly. It certainly could have been much worse. But at the same time, he wasn't really sure what to say. The Yiga knew he was awake. They'd already come after him, but Link didn't want his exact plans to spread. Gossip was a powerful thing. Maybe he was being stupid, overthinking. But the thought of telling an unknown number of people his entire plan made him feel queasy. He'd have to find a balance somehow. Sighing, Link hooked the Sheikah slate onto his belt and looked at his reflection in Simmons' rather smeared mirror. He didn't look quite so tired and pale anymore. The shadows under his eyes had gotten smaller. He didn't look sick and weak anymore. He didn't look like he was going to collapse from exhaustion. Good. It was a start. Baby steps, right? He rubbed at the back of his neck, a habit he couldn't seem to break. He wanted to stay in the lab or go to his house. His family's. He couldn't get over it. Parties were never my forte, he thought, and just like that, he remembered. To his utter bafflement, the second she saw him, Zelda dragged him towards her chambers without a word. Princess, Link eventually said when no explanation was forthcoming, aren't we meant to be meeting with the priestesses? We are, Zelda agreed. Later. First, we have a meeting with my seamstress. The grin she gave him was downright mischievous. Link couldn't understand why. Okay, he said blankly. He could have sworn Zelda's gown for the upcoming ball had been completed a week ago. Maybe it needed some alterations? You haven't seen Princess Mipha in merely 2 months, am I right? Zelda asked. Link's free hand went to his locket, holding on tight. Mipha gave it to him 5 months ago now, and Link had yet to take it off. That's right, he said. But she'll be here for Neighbor's Festival, Zelda said. All the champions will, of course, but... She paused outside her chambers. She switched from holding his wrist to his hand. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think now would be a fun time to give Mipha a little surprise. And I know you have some formal gear, but it covers you head to toe. I know you like fashion, so let's have some fun with it. It clicked. Link should have been mortified. Princess Zelda, his best friend, was seriously suggesting that Link should, at the very least, fluster Mipha. And at the most, well, he wasn't going to continue that line of thought in the princess's presence. He couldn't deny the idea was appealing. You don't have to, Zelda said firmly, a promise. You most certainly don't have to wear anything you don't want to. At the least, I stand by my stance that you deserve something new. Link smiled and prayed he wasn't blushing. He agreed, and Zelda beamed, pulling him inside. Zelda's lead seamstress was a woman in her 50s with auburn hair held back in an intricate hairnet. She worked swiftly, efficiently, taking Link's measurements, even measuring his arm 3 times until she was absolutely certain she had it right, and ushered him to stand in the sunlight streaming through the windows of Zelda's sitting room. She peered closely at his face, humming thoughtfully. Without a word, she got back to work, measuring his waist and asking him to stand as still as possible. Well, it would be a crime to put you in something plain, she said. With your coloring and it being Nehru's festival, perhaps blue is a little too obvious, but I'd still say it's a must. It would certainly draw attention to your eyes. As for other colors, do you like purple? Link began to sign, and she said, Please don't fidget, dear. Link froze. His hands fell limply to his sides. Zelda's voice, ice cold, cut through the sudden silence. He wasn't fidgeting, he was talking. Oh, the seamstress blushed. Oh dear, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. Link hummed uncomfortably. He glanced at Zelda. only to find her glowering at the seamstress. The seamstress didn't say another word, and her face was still bright pink by the end of the appointment. She apologized again, curtsying deeply. "I'm so sorry," Zelda said the second the woman was gone. She looked nearly as mortified as the seamstress. "Gracious, that was so... Oh, I could have slapped her." "You wouldn't," Link sighed fondly. "Well, no, not really slap her, but... Ugh." Zelda glared at the closed door. "Honestly, the cheek of it. As if everyone doesn't know you sign." She looked at him, biting her lip. "Are you okay?" "It's nothing new," he signed, and Zelda sighed. "That's just the problem," she said. She glared at the door again. Well, she'd better make sure whatever designs she come up with are her best yet. "It'd be a very fancy apology," Link smirked. Zelda finally smiled. "As you deserve, my dear friend. Now, on to the priestesses, I suppose. Really, we've already gone over our interests and where to stand 100 times. Neither of us are even giving speeches. Shouldn't they be pestering Father instead?" The seamstress, to her credit, returned with 6 sketches only 2 days later. Link pointed at one. Impa gave an intrigued hum, and Zelda said, "Oh, that's lovely." And that was that. The result was undeniably stunning. It was by far and away the loveliest clothing now in Link's possession. Still, at the first fitting, he felt a bit silly. He was used to layers, long sleeves, and high necks. Everything was practical, made for ease of movement and protection. Even his more formal outfits, few as they were of similar cuts to his casual clothes. As Zelda said, he was typically covered head to toe. The tunic, such as it was, cut off straight at Link's hips at the front and swept dramatically to his knees at the back. Although the neckline was quite high, it was nearly backless. Thin golden chains draped across his bare back, brushing against his skin with every movement. It was sleeveless and made from some light, airy material that Link wasn't familiar with, though he'd thought he'd seen something similar being sold in Kara Kara Bazaar, but it was dyed the same gentle blue as nightshade blossoms. In contrast to the soft blue, there was a bright golden pattern of dragon scales all along the sweeping train of the tunic, tipped with sharply cut diamonds. There was a gauzy underlayer of sheer gold fabric, just a little longer than the train itself. More thin gold chains studded here and there with diamonds sat snugly on his hips. A totally useless belt, but gorgeous. The trousers, a vivid midnight blue and shimmering faintly, as if they'd been dipped in glitter and dyed over, absolutely clung to him. The boots, only ankle high, were a much darker, burnished shade of gold. Link had never seen men's shoes shimmer like that before. He didn't recognize himself in the mirror. "Wow," he mouthed, and Zelda squealed outright, clapping her hands. "Now, I'm no jeweler," Zelda's seamstress said, "but may I suggest luminous stones for your hair?" Somewhat dazed, Link nodded in agreement. He looked... wow. It wasn't as if Link thought he was ugly. He just didn't normally give his appearance any thought. He liked his hair, and that was really as much thought as he put into his general appearance, at least in terms of attractiveness. When it came to making sure he upheld the expected standards of a champion, that was easy enough. Just make sure his clothes were clean and unwrinkled. Make sure he didn't slouch or fidget. No one cared if he looked good, as long as he looked proper. Trust him, there was a difference. But now, well, he didn't want to take any of it off. "Oh, you look so beautiful," Zelda gasped, hands on her heart. Link ducked his head, trying to hide his grin. While the seamstress was distracted, Zelda leaned in to whisper, "Mipha is going to lose her mind." She gently nudged her arm against Link's and added, "Thank you for being my dress-up doll, darling." "Think I should be the one thanking you," Link whispered. When he was back in his usual clothes and the seamstress was gone, regrettably taking those gorgeous clothes with her, Link felt oddly mournful. Link thought it over. "Zelda?" Yes, Link?" Link grinned at her. "I think I want to wear stuff like that more often, more... I don't know, what's the word? Andy something?" "Androgynous?" Zelda asked. "Yeah," Link said. "That's it." Zelda's own smile widened. "Oh, we are going to have so much fun with this." Link felt dazed as the memories abruptly stopped. Well then. He really did have to thank Zelda for giving him the confidence to try something new. He still didn't want to go to this dinner, but felt more at ease now. One more memory. Well, more than one, actually, and it was good. He hoped he'd remember the rest. Link wanted to know if Mipha lost her mind after all. To really sell the act of being a sweet little girl, Purah held Link's hand as they descended the hill. As they all, admittedly reluctantly, got ready, Purah had an idea. Since she was pretending to be her own granddaughter, they could always claim they couldn't stay away from the lab too long. After all, they had to get back to poor, non-existent Granny Purah and make sure she was comfortable and had taken her medicine. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Link rapidly signed when she suggested it. Purah remembered how mortified and baffled Link had been when Rome assigned servants to him after the wedding to Mipha. She didn't doubt Link reacted the same way to the Zora servants when he stayed with Mipha. Truth be told, having servants fuss because she made her own cup of tea would drive Purah nuts. She understood why it frustrated and embarrassed Link so much. Link was fiercely independent, introverted, and shyer than most people realized. And of course, always trying to prove he was capable. Having everyone stare because of the Master's sword had been bad enough. Once there was a crown on his head, not that he wore it often, the staring got worse. For a while, Link got all withdrawn and quiet again, until Mipha and Zelda dragged him off for a private chat. Purah didn't know what they said. She knew from Impa that the three of them had been locked in Zelda's study for half a day. Impa stood on guard outside the door, glaring away any of Zelda's handmaids, any other guards, even shooing Mipha's servants. By the end of the chat, probably an interrogation and venting session, really, Link was back to normal. Still quiet as a mouse at the best of times, but smiling again. He wasn't smiling now, but he looked thoughtful. Purah made a show of swinging their joined hands, and he finally grinned. He grabbed the slate and somewhat awkwardly with his free hand managed to type, "You're having way too much fun with this." "Let me live, Linky," she said, nose in the air. "I'm just embracing my role as a cute little girl." "You are very cute," Dr. Purah, Sidon said. "He's my new favorite," Purah declared. Sidon whooped in victory while Link rolled his eyes. "I've been your assistant for 15 years, Simmons said, and I have never once been your favorite." "You don't call me cute," Purah said. Simon gave that familiar, exhausted sigh, and Purah stuck her tongue out at him. That had nothing to do with selling the act. She just liked annoying him. Poor Mayor Reede looked seconds away from fainting. He introduced the group at large to his wife and daughter, asking if anyone wanted anything to drink while dinner cooked. Sidon had to admit it smelled delicious, and he rarely had anything cooked. He still remembered how confused he'd been as Father tried to explain that Hylians had to cook their food, especially meat, or they'd fall ill. Sidon, in all his childhood wisdom, had declared they should just eat it anyway. "Do not give Link ideas," Mipha warned. "He'll do it." Indeed, Link had looked like he'd been issued a challenge. If Sidon remembered right, he and Mipha weren't even courting yet. Link had been visiting as a friend. Sidon had been utterly baffled by the burned food given to Link. "Hello, sir," Sidon said to Mayor Reede, offering a shallow bow. "My name is Sidon. I am Link's brother. I believe Baz mentioned he was wed to my sister." "It's an honor to meet you, Your Grace," Mayor Reede said. The poor man was blushing. "This is certainly a tremendous—" "I knew it!" little Karen suddenly shrieked. She'd spotted Purah. "I told you so, Mama, Papa. I told you a Sheikah girl lived at the lab." Reed and Clavia looked stunned. Baz badly hid his grin. Purah really acted the part. She waved so shyly, half hidden behind Link. "Hi," she all but whispered. "I'm Purah." Sidon resisted the urge to coo or pinch her cheeks. Honestly, being so adorable shouldn't be allowed. "Hello, dear," Clavia said warmly, making noticeable effort to contain her surprise. "It's nice to meet you. Have you lived at the lab long?" "For a while," Purah said, looking bashfully at the ground, "with my Nana Purah." "The director of our lab," Simon explained. "She is 125 now, so I hope you can understand her absence. She needs her rest." "Oh, of course." Clavia said. If she ever needs anything, please let me know. I'd be glad to help. I'll be sure to tell her, Simon said. Sidon had to hand it to the Sheikah duo. They were skilled actors. Do you need any help with dinner? Link asked from the slate. Clavia looked at it with supplies, but rallied quickly. Oh, no, Your Highness, she said. You're our guest. Just relax. Karen dragged Burra off to show her her dollhouse. Burra actually looked intrigued. Mayor Reede set about gathering drinks while Clavia hurried back to the kitchen. She poked her head back out to address the Zora. I'm sorry, I should have asked. Would you prefer raw fish? I'd like to try cooked fish, Ribbon said brightly. I've never had it. Baz readily agreed. Sidon so rarely had cooked fish, but he enjoyed it well enough. And he certainly didn't want to cause a woman more hassle, so he nodded and smiled. Mayor Reede offered all manner of drinks: water, apple juice, hydromelon juice, beer, mead, wine. Sidon didn't understand how Baz could drink such dark red wine with a smile. He found it too dry, too heavy. Can I have wine? Karen asked with a smile, looking up from her dollhouse with little family of dolls. Maybe when you're 30, Reed teased. Karen gave a world-weary sigh, sounding so grown up that Sidon just had to grin at her. It was easy for Sidon to take the lead in talking. It was what he did. Goddesses knew he had plenty of royal training under his belt, so he did most of the talking, asking Reed all about Hateno, praising their ability to rebuild, complimenting the beauty of the land, and thanking Reed for his warm welcome. Soon enough, dinner was served. To Clavia's credit, it was delicious. What's that thing? Karen asked, pointing across the table to the Sheikah slate. With a few taps, Simon's voice spoke from the slate. It's called a Sheikah slate. It used to belong to my friend, Princess Zelda. I'm borrowing it for now. Whoa, Karen gasped, eyes wide. It talks? Link grinned at her, more at ease with her childish curiosity than the adults around them. Sometimes I can't speak, so the slate speaks for me, when people don't understand Hylian sign. Dr. Purra made it speak, and Dr. Simon used his voice for me. Cool, Karen said, leaning forward for a better look. What else does it do? Link showed her the pictures saved to the slate, the compendium, and the map. He avoided the runes, and Sidon couldn't blame him. It probably wouldn't be a good idea to have the bomb runes if Karen tapped against the screen. Even Reed and Clavia couldn't hide their curiosity. Purra leaned against Link's side. Sidon wondered how much of that sleepy expression on her face was genuine. Eventually, Reed cleared his throat, drawing everyone's attention. His solemn eyes were on Link. I just wanted to say, Your Highness, that it is truly an honor to have you here, he said. All of you. If there is anything we can do to help, anything at all, don't hesitate to let us know. Link gave him a small, grateful smile. If I may ask, Reed looked more awkward now. I know it's impossible to rush such a quest, but do you have an idea of when you'll be facing Ganon? As soon as possible, Link said via the slate. We have a plan in place. We know exactly where to go next. There was no disguising the relief in Reed and Clavia's eyes. Karen, meanwhile, was distracted by asking Purra what her favorite games to play were. Link hesitated but typed. Please let everyone know to be careful. The Yiga clan are on the move too. Reed nodded, expression resolute. I'll call a town meeting. I'll make sure everyone is careful as possible. Hunting a teenager, Sidon heard Clavia grumble to herself. Those demons. He quite agreed. Sidon was just relieved the dinner went smoothly. The only rocky patch was when Clavia asked Link how he survived, and Link clammed up. I didn't, he typed, and Clavia blanched. Link immediately looked horrified by his own slip-up. What His Grace means, Simon cut in quickly, is that he was placed in a healing coma. Very experimental technology. To our great relief, it plainly worked. It wasn't the entire truth, of course, but no one wanted to explain the Shrine of Resurrection or Link's death. Sidon didn't even want to think about it. Baz, bless him, quickly changed the subject by asking Reed about farming and telling stories of his rare visits here 100 years ago. Reed was utterly delighted that to learn that Link had been born in Hateno and raised here until he was 8. But even that leaned into dangerous territory, into asking Link about a childhood he couldn't remember. So it was Sidon's turn to jump in and ask about the nearby beach. Karen was all too happily to talk over her parents, rambling about swimming and collecting shells and pretty stones. "You gotta come with us sometime," Karen said to Purah. "It's lots of fun." Purah, for all her fretting about leaving the lab, looked like she was seriously considering it. Simon looked exhausted. Sidon grinned and took another bite of hearty salmon. He'd still argue it tasted better raw, but whatever herbs Clavia cooked it with were delightful, and he'd never had so much butter on a dish before. He listened to the various conversations around him. Reede was asking Link about defense techniques and explained the village's security measures. They had gatekeepers, of course, and sturdy walls ringing the village, but no warriors. Link listened intently and immediately offered to show the basics to anyone who was interested. Baz took another swig of wine, and Riven tried a sip, only to pull a disgusted face. Clavia was earnestly asking Simon about his work at the lab. Although she plainly had no idea what he was talking about, she stayed smiling, nodding along and asking all the right questions. Sidon was just relieved they were earnest. He knew far too many greedy and grasping politicians. He knew too many people who would have tried to corner Link and badger him for information that they weren't entitled to. Reede seemed to genuinely want to help. He looked more relaxed now, though still a little awed, still out of its depths. But his smile was more natural, his shoulders less tense. Sidon smiled and let himself relax too. At 9 o'clock sharp, Simon made the necessary apologies and said they had to get back to Dr. Purah to make sure the poor old dear was well. Purah kicked Simon's shin at the poor old dear comment when no one was looking. Clavia insisted they bring leftover desserts home with them, a few slices of chocolate cake and honey candy. Sidon gave Purah a piggyback ride, marching along. Riven took one of the slices of cake and ate it while they walked, humming happily. "I haven't had Hylian dessert in over 100 years, he said. "Did my mama ever make desserts for the sleepovers?" Link sighed. "Your mother couldn't bake at all," Riven laughed fondly. "Your grandmother could, though. Oh, her lemon muffins were divine. I hope you remember that recipe eventually, Your Highness. I miss them terribly." They passed the tavern. A few groups still sat outside. Music and light poured out through the open doorway. "Oh, Princey!" Bolson called. Link paused, glancing over his shoulder. Bolson, Hudson, and Carson were sitting at a small table together. Hudson raised his mug of beer in a salute. Carson called, "Yo!" waving enthusiastically. Judging from his flushed face, he was pretty sloshed. Link gestured for his friends to wait and hurried over to the construction workers. "Well, well, well," Bolson hummed. "You're a prince and Hylia's chosen. You sure kept that quiet, honey." "I keep a lot of things quiet," Link said with a slate. "It's called being selectively mute." The trio burst out laughing, and Link grinned at them. "You're a cheeky one," Bolson said with approval. "And sneaky. You in town for long, honey?" "Only a few days." "Then I'm dragging you and your handsome friends out for dinner at least once." "You old enough to drink, kid?" Hudson asked, squinting suspiciously. Link shrugged. He had no idea. But if he was old enough to be married, surely he was old enough to drink. "Doubt it," Hudson decided. "Oh, lighten up, Hudson," Bolson sighed. "We're not getting a kid drunk, boss." "Boo. His bodyguards will beat us up." "Maybe his bodyguards will want to drink too, Hudson." "They're always like this," Carson told Link, rolling his eyes. "Run, while you still can." Bolson pressed a finger firmly to Hudson's lips to shut him up. He pointed another finger at Link. His nails were painted a pretty shade of lilac. "Drinks," he said. "You need to have some fun, kiddo." Link had a feeling that Sidon was going to love Bolson. He couldn't decide if the idea amused him or terrified him. Maybe a bit of both. Either way, Link nodded and promised to meet up with the trio when they weren't tipsy and could actually make plans. "Friends of yours?" Simmons asked when Link rejoined them. "I think so," Link signed. All told, the night had gone smoothly, but Link still felt exhausted. He just wanted to curl up in a ball and go to sleep. Speaking of sleep, they ran into a problem when they reached the lab. A massive lack of beds. I'm too tired for this, Purah grumbled, rubbing her eyes. Same, Link thought. Oh, we have our sleeping bags, Sidon said with a dismissive wave of his hands. It's perfectly fine. Poor Simmons, still stressed about making guests, let alone Sidon, sleep on the floor of the lab. There was no way they could all squeeze into Simmons' room. Purah, dropping the little girl act, told Simmons to quit being a fussy old lady and go to bed. After some wrangling, the Zora trio and Link camped out in the lab itself, spread out on the floor. It was certainly an unusual place to camp, though not an uncomfortable one. Good night, all, Baz yawned. Link only managed a tired hum in response, curled up in a ball and already half asleep. Nehru's festival was a long day. It started with prayers to the goddess of wisdom at dawn. The castle's chapel was crowded, and every chapel in Castletown would be filled to the brim. As far as festivals went, this was a day for reflection, prayer, meditation, and, of course, wisdom. Link knew many of the more devout fasted from dawn to midnight. He didn't think he could manage that. 2 priestesses and a priest, all draped in blue and white, led the morning prayers. Silver bells gently rang through the chapel. Link saw Pip, a knight his age, start to doze off and be sharply nudged awake by another knight. He tried to focus on the prayers. Honestly, he did. But his thoughts kept wandering back to the ball that would be held later. Link was officially off duty as Zelda's guard today, though he was still on duty as a champion. No one was ever off duty when it came to that title. It was one of the rare occasions where he'd have people expected to guard him instead. He mentally went over the plans again. The party would begin outside as the sun set. It was tradition, he knew, there would be dancers dressed as the dragon Naedra. Link and Zelda were expected to make their entrance together, Hylia's descendant and Hylia's chosen, Nehru's child and Farore's child. King Rome would give a speech. The chief priest from Nehru's temple would give an even longer speech. Once the moon had fully risen, lanterns would be released into the night sky to join the stars. Then the dancing would begin in earnest. Hundreds of platters of food would be brought out, and it would turn from a day of solemnity to a night of festivity. Usually, Link made an excuse to leave as soon as he could. He'd stay as long as he had to, always wary of everyone watching him, then slip away. But now he and Zelda had plotted, and he so badly wanted to see the look on Mipha's face. Maybe he'd actually stay all night this time. At the appointed time, he and Impa went to Zelda's room. Impa looked stunning in her silk kimono with nightshade woven through her hair. The kimono was mostly silver, blending into a rich royal blue at the end. Plum trees were patterned all along the hem, and a beautiful design of Naedra twisted around her right arm. The dragon's bright blue horns crept onto Impa's shoulder. Like Zelda instructed, Link had a cloak thrown over his outfit. Impa smirked at him. She knew what design he'd chosen when sketches were presented, but she'd yet to see the completed work. Impa knocked, and one of Zelda's handmaids, Cassie, let them in, bowing so low she was practically bent in half. "Oh, there you are," Zelda said happily. She sat at her vanity with Urbosa doing her hair. "Hello, you two," Urbosa greeted warmly. Zelda looked like a painting come to life. Her gown was snowy white with a bodice and long dramatic sleeves of sheer floral lace, picked out with tiny beads of sapphire and luminous stones. The billowing sleeves nearly reached the floor. Silent princesses made from silk circled her waist and the wide collar of her gown. The skirt was voluminous with layers of satin. Her hair hung down her back in soft ringlets. Urbosa was pinning it back off her face with pins made of luminous stones, shaped like flowers. Her eyeshadow was vivid blue, an exact match for the luminous stones, and glittered nearly as much. "You look beautiful, Princess," Impa said. "As do you, Lady Urbosa." "Flatterer." Urbosa said with a smirk. But it was true. Urbosa was always stunning. She'd traded her usual champion's blue and Gerudo royal black for a dress of vivid purple, green, and gold. Instead of sleeves, the dress had a rather dramatic cape, swooping behind her and trailing to the floor. The patterns of green and gold were in bold, striking lines, reminding Link of her lightning strikes. She wore her crown, and her earrings dangled halfway down her neck. "Ladies, please leave us," Zelda said to her maids. When they were gone and Urbosa was finished styling her hair, Zelda stood and hurried over to Link. "Urbosa, you have to see this," she said gleefully. "Link, show her." Blushing furiously, Link took his cloak off. Impa grinned and said, "Oh, fantastic," giving him 2 thumbs up. As for Urbosa, her smile softened. Suddenly, everything about her seemed softer. She looked like she was realizing something. "Let's see a spin," she said, twirling her finger. A little baffled, Link spun around. Urbosa came over and gently took both of his hands. "You look stunning," she said. She smirked at Zelda and added, "I take this was your doing, little bird." "I may have given him a nudge," Zelda said proudly. "Are you leaving your hair down, Link?" Urbosa asked him. He could only shrug in response. He supposed so. He'd had it down all day. It was either that or his usual ponytail, or maybe a braid. That was about all he was capable of. "Luminous stones were recommended," Zelda reminded him. Link only raised an eyebrow at her. It was a great idea, but he most certainly did not own any luminous stones. Urbosa and Zelda exchanged looks. Link didn't quite trust those matching smirks. When they looked like that, it was a struggle to remember they weren't actually related. "You still have those luminous beads, don't you, little bird?" Urbosa asked, sounding like she knew the answer. "I do," Zelda said, sweeping across the room to her vanity. She quickly found the beads in a drawer and held them aloft with a triumphant, "Aha!" "Should I be worried?" Link asked, voice quiet as always. "Oh, not at all," Urbosa said, humming thoughtfully. She took a few strands of his hair and held them back. "Maybe a few twists instead of braids." "What's happening?" Link asked. "I believe you're getting your hair done, Sir Knight," Impa said with a smirk. "But I'm fine." "Someone has to show you how it's done," Urbosa said, grinning. "It may as well be us." Zelda looked at him pleadingly, holding the beads in her hands. "I've got gold armbands you can borrow, and earrings if you'd like," she said, a clear bribe. It worked. Link nodded. All 3 of his friends looked far too happy about it, but he found himself smiling as Zelda dragged him into a chair. Urbosa took charge, gently pulling small sections of Link's hair back, fashioning them into twists and explaining each step, showing Link how to put and keep the luminous beads in place. She really seemed to be a mind reader because she said, "I do hope Mipha knows what she's getting into with you." He couldn't duck his head, not with Urbosa's hands in his hair, so he settled for hiding his face in his hands. Urbosa laughed, gently slapping his bare shoulder. "You're a sneaky little one," she said approvingly. "Who knew?" "What about makeup?" Zelda asked. "Don't push him, little bird," Urbosa gently scolded. "Actually, I was thinking," Link signed. He bit his lip and held up his locket, gently tapping the Zora sigil, the 3 crescent moons back to back. He tapped the corner of his eyelid and gently traced the shape of a crescent. They got it right away. "Mipha's going to lose her mind," Impa said. Zelda immediately rushed to find what she needed. Urbosa only laughed, clapping Link's shoulder. "You know what, Link?" she said. "Good for you." Thanks so much to anybody who listens to this. As always, I'm leaving a link in the description for the original fic over on AO3. If you like this, please go leave kudos and comments for the original author over there. I'm sure it's much appreciated. I will be back with chapter 21 as soon as I get that finished.